As we mentioned, the FBI director went on the record Monday to say his agency has for months been investigating possible collusion between Trump campaign associates and Russian officials.
Our practice is not to confirm the existence of ongoing investigations, especially those investigations that involve classified matters. But in unusual circumstances, where it is in the public interest, it may be appropriate to do so, as Justice Department policies recognize. This is one of those circumstances. I have been authorized by the Department of Justice to confirm that the FBI, as part of our counterintelligence mission, is investigating the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. And that includes investigating the nature of any links between individuals associated with the Trump campaign and the Russian government, and whether there was any coordination between the campaign and Russia's efforts.
Comey was speaking before the House Intelligence Committee in their first open hearing about Russian interference in the 2016 presidential campaign. Comey also said there was no evidence to support President Trump's charge that he was wiretapped by the Obama administration.
With respect to the president's tweets about alleged wiretapping directed at him by the prior administration, I have no information that supports those tweets, and we have looked carefully inside the FBI. The Department of Justice has asked me to share with you that the answer is the same for the Department of Justice and all its components. The department has no information that supports those tweets.
It's the first time Director Comey has spoken publicly about either Russian communication with the Trump campaign or the president's claims of wiretapping, but there was still a lot that he wouldn't talk about.
Do you know who Roger Stone is?
Generally, yes.
Are you aware that he was a partner of Paul Manafort?
You know, Mr. Schiff, I'm worried we're going to a place I don't want to go, which is commenting on any particular person.
Director Comey, did Paul Manafort ever register as a foreign agent under FARA?
That's not something I can comment on.
Do you have any evidence that any current Trump White House or administration official coordinated with the Russian intelligence services?
Not a question I can answer.
Did you brief President Obama on any calls involving Michael Flynn?
I'm not going to get into either that particular case, that matter, or any conversations I had with the president, so I can't answer that. I want to ask people, don't overinterpret the fact that I say I can't comment. I'm not going to comment on anybody.
The ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, spoke to Scott Pelley on Monday's CBS Evening News.
Congressman Schiff, as we speak this evening, is there any evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia?
Well, I think what we saw in the hearing today was Director Comey acknowledged that there was sufficient evidence and credible information that warranted his opening up a counterintelligence investigation. That is there coordination with a foreign power? Has someone become an agent of a foreign power? So there was sufficient evidence, certainly, for the director to open that investigation. That's certainly consistent also with what I've seen. And the way I've described it is there is circumstantial evidence, certainly, of collusion or coordination. There has been direct evidence of deception. And I think people, I hope, got the sense today during this long hearing about just why it's so important that both Congress and the FBI do a thorough investigation.
But to be crystal clear, this evening, as we speak, there is no hard evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. You said there's circumstantial evidence.
I would not say, I would not phrase it the way that you did. And circumstantial evidence can be very powerful and is hard evidence. But you can certainly prove many cases on the basis of circumstantial evidence, so people shouldn't underestimate the power of that.
Why do you think that Donald Trump and the White House continue to insist that he was the target of surveillance on the orders of President Obama when there doesn't seem to be any evidence to support that?
Well, it's, one of two things. It's either that the president simply cannot admit error, and that might be the most, the least damning explanation, as critical as that would be. Or the more concerning would be he can't tell the difference between fact and fiction, and he has somehow persuaded himself of this alternate reality. That would be an even worse scenario, and honestly, at this point, I can't tell which it is.
Representative Adam Schiff, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Scott.
The Republican chairman of the committee, Devin Nunes, declined a one-on-one interview with CBS News, but spoke to a group of reporters after the hearing.
I do think that this is a bit of a big net to cast and a big umbrella, for lack of a better term, to put out with, I think, what's very little justification at this point.
Little justification for what?
Well, where you won't even say whether or not you had accusations today of several members of the president's cabinet being somehow tied to the Russians, which we have no Russian intelligence services. We have no evidence of that, and I doubt that evidence exists.
Frank Cilluffo is in our Washington bureau. He's a CBS News security consultant and former Homeland Security advisor to President George W. Bush. Great to see you again, Frank.
Thank you, Elaine. Good to see you.
So we heard FBI Director Comey say that there's no evidence of surveillance on Trump Tower, but White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said there's interesting news on wiretapping yet to come. Can they both be right?
I think that Director Comey was pretty definitive in his response, not only from the FBI's perspective, but he went on to elaborate that the Department of Justice shared his opinion. And I think it was kind of telling that Admiral Rogers, the director of the National Security Agency, went on to dispel and refute some of the statements that have been made that it could have been the Brits or the UK and their Signals Intelligence Service, the GCHQ. So I think that it was pretty definitive that no one seems to know where the allegations are coming from.
Well, Frank, I want to play another clip from FBI Director Comey and NSA Director Mike Rogers at Monday's hearing. Take a listen.
They'll be back in 2020. They may be back in 2018. And one of the lessons they may draw from this is that they were successful because they introduced chaos and division and discord and sowed doubt about the nature of this amazing country of ours and our democratic process. It's possible they're misreading that as it worked. And so we'll come back and hit them again in 2020.
We're working closely with our European teammates to provide the insights that we have seen to try to assist them as they themselves, France and Germany, for example, about to undergo significant national leadership elections over the course of the next 2 months.